So in this video, we're going to be learning about precision cut technique. So first up, I want to show you that I've set up my station correctly. So I've got my green chopping board because I'll be chopping vegetables. I've got a mat underneath to secure my chopping board so it's not going to slide everywhere. In the hospitality kitchen, we have rubber mats for that job. I've got my vegetables, my carrots are peeled. I'm leaving my onion unpeeled so I can show you how to cut that correctly. My celery stems are washed and my parsley is washed. I've got a platter here to put my vegetables on to show you what they look like once they're completed. And I have just a glass bowl to put on my offcuts and waste. Garbage should not go on the bench, it should go directly into a waste bowl that can either be used for stock or can go straight in the bin once we're finished. So what we're going to be doing is 6 different chopping techniques. The first one we're going to be doing is julienne, followed by jardiniere, macédoine, paysanne, chiffonade and brunoise. So julienne is our first technique, and julienne is to be described as thin matchsticks. So envisage a matchstick. It's a small and thin little piece of wood, about 4 centimeters long. So it's very important that we get our measurements correct when we're doing our precision cuts, because this is what French cookery is all about and the skills that we learn from them. So julienne, firstly, it's 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters with 40 millimeters in length. So the first thing I start by doing is I square off my carrot. So I remove the ends into my scrap bowl. Then I'm going to envisage that I'm going to cut this into 4 centimeter lengths. So I get my knife, I go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can picture that is 4 centimeters there. I'll do the same again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I should be left with about the same size. So I've got 3 lots of 4 centimeter lengths. So that is one part of my measurement done correctly. Now I need to turn these into thin matchsticks. So in order to do that, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to square off each of these rounds. So I'm going to turn them into long squares. So I'm going to do that by just slicing down the sides to remove that round edge of the carrot. I'm going to do that on all 4 sides. So what I've got now is a perfect squared batten all the way around, still 4 centimeters in length with 4 square sides. My scrap goes in the bin. And I'll do that to all 3 of these. In precision cuts, there is a substantial amount of waste, but it's very important when learning the techniques that you do them correctly the right way the first time. Okay, so we've got our square batten, all the same. Now what we're going to do is we are going to cut these down in 2 millimeter lengths all the way along to start making our battens. So 2 millimeters straight down, curling my fingers back, looking over the top of my knife, 2 millimeters. The last one I put on the edge and just go directly down. Move them to the side. If you don't want to go from the top, you can lay them down as well and go straight down. I've got one incorrect one here, so I'll just throw that into the scrap. So what I've got now is my battens, they're 2 millimeters wide by 40 long. So now I need to cut 2 millimeters lengthways here, and then I'll have my matchstick. So I'll do that by just stacking all my correct sizes on top of each other, just to save on time. So I've stacked them nice and neatly. Apply firm downward pressure and line my knife up to the edge, and just go straight down at 2 millimeters. So now I'm simply left with my julienne, 2mm by 2mm round at the edges, and then 40mm long, so 4 centimeters long. So I'm just going to stack my julienne in nice neat piles onto my platter, and I'm going to continue doing the rest of the julienne. So once again, I stack them on top of each other, curl my fingers back and apply downward pressure, and bring my knife down at 2mm intervals, curling my fingers back slowly. So when you first start learning this, it's important to go very slow. So as you can see, I've got julienne there now. Each of these matchsticks look very similar to a matchstick. 2mm by 2mm by 40. Julienne. Now I'm going to move on to my next one, which is similar to julienne in the style that we're going to cut the lengths out first. Then we're going to square off the carrot. This one's called jardiniere. Jardiniere refers to small battens, and the appropriate length of a jardiniere batten is 5mm by 5mm by 20mm. So it's half a centimetre round, so little small fat battens, but still half the length of julienne. So I'm going to cut the ends off my carrots like I did before. I'll only use half of my carrot to this, but instead of just cutting in half straight away, I'll make sure I measure my batten first. So I've got my first centimetre and my second centimetre. So that's 2 centimetres long. And I'll do one more, 1 centimetre, 2 centimetre, cut down. Just move that to the side. So put them on their flat edge so they're not rolling around, very unstable. On their flat edge, just going to square them off now. Get rid of my waste. Now all this waste I will be using as a stock later on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now that I've got my squared length, I've got my 2 centimetres in length. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the 5mm cut. So half a centimetre, so pitch a half a centimetre, and we're going to slice directly down. And pitch a half a centimetre again and slice directly down. I can't use that small piece, has to go. In the same way that I did my julienne, I stack all my pieces on top of each other, apply downward pressure, curl my fingers back, line my knife up, and I do half a centimetre once again, down, half a centimetre, down, and then discard of the waste. So what I'm left with is small battens, measuring 5mm by 20. So that is jardiniere, 5 by 5 by 20. Just do the next one again. Half a centimetre. Stack them on top. Jardiniere. So the next cut I'm going to do using the carrot, and the last cut with the carrot, is going to be macédoine. Macédoine is the French term for small cubes, measuring 8mm by 8mm. So it's 8mm on all 6 sides of the cube. So the first thing we're going to do is get them onto the length. I'm going to square up my carrot. Okay, so I've got my perfect square now, and I can tell you straight up that that is about 1.5 centimeters. So what I'm going to do is going to lengthways, I'm going to get that to 8 millimeters. So 2 millimeters shy of 1 centimeter. And cut that in half lengthways. Same thing, I'm just going to turn to its side. Once again, we're larger at the base and thinner at the top. So I'll actually turn it so it's at going from the top. And we go to 8 millimeters yet again. And taper it in. So we have now our 8 millimeters. 8 millimeters by 8 millimeters. Now I'm just going to cut the lengthways. Do the same with this one. Just cut it to the 8 millimeter mark. Line them up together and do my Macédoine. So now I've got my 8 millimeter cubes. Okay, the next one we're going to do is paysanne. Paysanne refers to decorative slices. Now, there's going to be no specific way to cut a celery stick. It already has a quite decorative curve to it. Now, what we can do is we can actually build upon this curve. We can utilize this curve and its shape for many different things. So if I was going to do a stir fry or a soup, I'll just do small little half moon slices all the way along. So it's a different shape being used in my cooking. Or I can turn it and cut it on an angle so it's a long half moon and use it in a stir fry type mix. So I'm going to do a couple of varieties today. So I'm just going to do my half moon crescents first. So these are roughly about 0.5 centimeter in length. So just a couple of half moon crescents I have there. I'll just put them to the side. Next thing I'm going to do is just do some little backwards and forwards slices. Just do some little triangles. Another decorative cut. And now with my last piece of celery, I'm just going to do some really nice decorative stir fry type style angular slices. So now I've got nice long ones that are nice for a stir fry. So 3 different types of cuts coming from the one thing. So we've got so paysanne again is just a decorative type of slice. So I can do whatever I want with any different type of food. So in Asian cooking, you'll often find carrots cut as stars and triangles and so on. So that's a paysanne cut. Okay, so the most important cut that every chef really needs to learn well is brunoise. Brunoise refers to very fine dice, and it's 3 millimeters by 3 millimeters by 3 millimeters. So it's very, very, very small, finely diced vegetables. So any vegetable can be asked to be brunoised, from carrots, celery, capsicum, but the most common is probably brunoise onion. It's the hardest to also get incorrect because the way an onion is held together, in the fact that it's got all these different shell layers. Keep peeling back the shells to reveal more. So it's very important that we start off with our onion with our skin on, and we start by cutting it correctly first. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to cut the core end first. I'm going to just cut the top off. Just a small slice straight down. Alright, so I've done that. You can see all these layers. Alright, once they start flaking off, it becomes very hard to cut brunoise. So what we do is we firmly place it on our bench. Now I've got a nice flat edge from which I can start cutting. And I'm going to get my knife, I'm going to cut it directly through the core, straight down. Important not to cut half in any other way, but straight through the core. Because what it is all these layers inside the onion are being held together by the core. So we're going to leave the core on right to the very end so that all of the layers of onion are actually held together, and you'll see why as we're going along. So now that I've done that, I'm going to peel off just the onion outer layer skin of both pieces. So I've got my onion core still attached. So I'll just set one aside for the moment. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have our nice chopping board right to the edge of the bench. Makes it much easier to cut. And I'm going to come down nice and low and bring my knife parallel to the board. So I'm going to get it nice and low, starting at the bottom. I'm going to lift my knife up from the board 3 millimeters. So remember I said it was a 3 millimeter by 3 millimeter dice? So I'm lifting my knife up 3 millimeters and I'm doing my first cut. And I'm going straight in parallel with the board, holding my onion firmly. And I'm going to stop cutting, as you can see there, 1 centimeter back from the core. And I'm going to simply just take my knife out. Once again, from that slice, I then go up a further 3 millimeters, rising my knife up as I go. So I cut 3 millimeters above that initial slice, and I stop 3 millimeters above. Pull my knife out and do another slice, 3 millimeters, and stop. And I keep doing that all the way to the top and stop. So now, I'll just do one more. Oh no, that'll do actually. So now I've got my slices, okay? 3 millimeters going from bottom to the top. Now I turn those cuts facing me, core facing away from me. Now I'm going to get my knife, bring it to the side and go from where I've stopped cutting, down 3 millimeters. Bring it across again 3 millimeters and straight down, straight to the bottom. I'm going to do that all the way along. Never going past that very last part where I've cut the 3 millimeters. I'll do the next one at a better angle so you can see. So once again, I'm just going to hold this up to you. So I've done my slices downwards, I've done my slices through now, and the onion is still completely held together. So I'm just going to do that one more time. Starting from the bottom, 3 millimeters, I slice across, and I pull my knife out. Go up again, 3 millimeters, stop, pull my knife out, 3 millimeters again, stop, 3 millimeters again, stop, 3 millimeters again. Then I turn it, so I'll do it this way now so you can see a bit better. Okay, core facing away from me, cut edge facing towards me, bring my knife down, 3 millimeters, all the way along. Making sure the tip of that knife, I'm not cutting it in half or anyway, I'm just putting the tip in just to where I stopped to pull my knife out before. Okay, so this is where the beauty of the brunoise is shown in your technique. So once again, I've got my cuts in all different directions. So now I put my knife straight down, horizontal to the onion, apply firm downward pressure, and at 3 millimeters, I'm going to slice my knife across. Keep moving in 3 millimeters each time. And as you can see, the little fine brunoise dice are just separating neatly from the onion. And then we stop at that last centimeter. And I just throw that away. And what I'm left with is my really beautiful, very fine brunoise. And I just put that with my vegetables. Okay, so I'm going to show you one more time, different angle this time. So bring my knife up nice and close, 3 millimeters, slice down. All the way along, and there we go. So that is the base for a lot of things such as bolognese, bruschetta, all sorts of technical dishes require brunoise. And until you get used to it, you will cry. Okay, the very last cut that I'm going to demonstrate to you is what we call chiffonade. Chiffonade refers to paper thin slices, finely chopped. So I'd usually chiffonade basil or herbs. So in order to do that, I'm simply going to take my parsley leaves here. I'm just going to curl it away from the stem because I only want to use the leaves. I'm just going to curl it up together so I get a nice firm hold. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to practice rocking my knife backwards and forwards. When I rock my knife backwards and forwards, my knife never ever leaves. I'm not chopping. You're not hearing the chopping action. You hear a rock. You hear a slicing of the board. So as I've got that slicing action going on, I'm going to bring that really close and I'm going to bring that over the parsley. And I'm going to really finely slice into paper thin slices that parsley. Okay, so now I've got paper thin shreds of parsley. Furthermore to that parsley, I'm going to really finely chop it by bringing my knife over, firm pressure on the tip from my left hand, going nowhere near the blade, and my right hand is holding the knife handle firmly, and I'm going to rock it over the top. And the tip of my blade never leaves the board. That's what my downward pressure on my right hand, on my left hand is for, to hold the tip of the knife on the board. And I drag it all together, backwards and forwards over the parsley. And that can be used as a garnish over pasta or eggs, anything really. So in conclusion, I have all my precision cuts here. We're going to start off with the julienne, the first one we did. The julienne is a thin matchstick, 2mm by 2mm by 40mm. Our next one was our jardiniere, which is our small fat battens. They are 5mm by 5mm squared at the ends and 2cm, 20mm long. Our next one was our macédoine, which is our small 8mm cubes, just 8mm on all sides. The next one was our decorative slices, our paysanne. Paysanne can really be any slice as long as it's bite size, so I did 3 different varieties there. Then I did the brunoise, which is the most important dice, and that's 3mm by 3mm. It's a very fine dice. There should be no chunks, no lumps. It is a very fine dice. And our last one was just our parsley, which we chopped up. So that was chiffonade and then turned into finely chopped. Okay, so there you go, gentlemen. I'd like you to try those at home. Try practicing those all the time, and hopefully you'll learn them very well. You'll be assessed on your knife skills.